Good morning, and welcome to the second installment of the Invisible Guitar. As I talked about yesterday, today we're going to do something very important. We're going to establish the perimeter, which in music is your hearing. You know, whoever created this gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so they obviously intended for us to listen more. And it goes all the way back to, my roots in music. I rely on my ears more than anything, and I've been reading music since I was 4 years old. It's not that I can't read music. My ears are more advanced than my eyes. It's the truth, and it's the way I handle it. This is a great book that I've had my whole life. It's The Thesaurus of Scales and Melodic Patterns by Nicholas Slavinsky. And if you look in this book, you can see the grand staff, where you'll have both clefs. I'm going to show you something here. You see that? If you look right here, there's the treble clef and there's the bass clef. You know what those represent? And a lot of people who've been in music their whole life don't know this. The ear. The treble clef is the inner ear. That's what it looks like. That little ball there is an eardrum, and it represents high frequencies. And then the bass clef is the outer ear, which hears low frequencies. So this stuff goes back to the origins of music, and if you're going to get in, like we're going to do with this guitar thing, and take it to a deeper level, we're going to have to talk about intervals. Even when I went to school at North Texas, one of the first classes I took was a great class with Dan Hurley. It's called Jazz Fundamentals, and he teaches intervals in there. Even to people who already know quite a bit about music. I think that learning to hear distance, which is what intervals is the most important thing to learn how to get what you hear out of your head into your fingers, or however you want to look at it, the soul of what you're doing. So we're just going to start with basic intervals today. I'm going to do them all from one string because I want you to hear them from one root, okay? There's no reason to go moving around right now. We want to get used to things in one spot, then we can move it to all the 12 different keys. So let's go through. So the low E, which is the lowest string that we have on the guitar. If you go to the first fret, like we talked about yesterday, I chose the note F. E to F is a half step. It's the smallest distance we have in music. So this is a minor second. It's Jaws. A lot of tension there. John Williams knew that when he wrote the song for Steven Spielberg's movie. Minor second. Also Beethoven. That starts with a minor second. Have you ever seen a picture of Beethoven smiling? No, he lived in the Dark Ages. Association is great. Okay, let's move to the next one. So if I go from the open string to the second fret, now there's not tension. That's called a major second. You might know that from the famous James Bond theme. That is 2 half steps, okay? Major second. Now, if we go back to the open string, we're going to do them all from the open string. Now we have a minor third, Brahms' Lullaby. Also Led Zeppelin. Okay, 1.5 steps. Now, let's go back to the low E open string. Major third. A bright interval. Also, Oh When the Saints. Okay, so far we have a minor second, major second, minor third, major third. Now we come to the first skeletal interval, which I like to think of, the perfect fourth. See, there's no tension there. When someone gets married, you hear this. In the military, taps. Okay. The Eyes of Texas. Perfect fourth. And I always recommend singing these things, This is a minor second. This is a perfect fourth. This is a major second. This is do that, you'll feel them in your throat. I literally, when I'm soloing, I feel it in my body. I know it's going to sound like before it ever comes out. It's a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful feeling. It's what we're meant to do. We're meant to be, not plug in licks and do stuff like that. We all have our favorite lines that we like to play that we've developed over time. But what about just being able to play? What concept, right? Okay, so that's why these intervals are so important. Now let's get to one of my favorites, the tritone. Every time I go into a church, I play one of these. And jokingly, it's also been called the devil's tone. So when you go to the low E, like we did, we had minor second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth. Then we get to the 3 whole steps. Okay? It's called the tritone because it's 3 whole steps. Devil's tone, nickname. You hear it in a lot of things. YYZ by Rush. Ambulances in Europe. Kind of a signal of distress. You hear that. The beginning of Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix. So lock that one in, okay? Tritone. Then we're going to go 3.5 steps. Open string to the 7th fret to a perfect 5th. Wonderful interval. Crazy Train does that. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. See, I use all these little things that we remember from when we were kids because, once again, like my mom taught me, association is so powerful. When you hear that and you link it to that, your brain loves that. It's how we remember things, okay? Let's move along now. We're going to go from the open low E string to the 8th fret. Okay? That's a minor 6th, E to the note C. Love Story. I think of that one's a great theme from a movie. Okay? Now we're going to move along from the open string to the 9th fret, which is the note C sharp. If you watch TV, you might recognize that from NBC. If you can sing it, you can play it. There's a guy that we all adored in the music community. Unfortunately, he's passed, named Charlie Banacus. And people he had a waiting list for lessons. He was so good. And he would do lessons in the mail. You would mail him a tape of your playing. He'd send back feedback. And even his daughter was posting from his blog when he was in the hospital. And he was over there transcribing the pitch on the EKG machines and stuff. And the nurses talking over the intercom. You can practice this stuff anywhere. That's why I call it the invisible guitar. I didn't get to the guitar till later in life. And, we're going to talk a lot in this vlog about how frustrating the guitar was for me because I come from a piano, which is a much more sound instrument. And coming over to this thing and the way it was tuned and everything, it was a real struggle for a while to understand why it was designed that way. And I didn't, even into my 30s, know the full extent of that, So, okay, now we've got another interval to go to here. Open low E to the 10th fret. That would be a minor 7th. Okay, to the note D. Go back to the open low E now. 5.5 steps to a major 7th, which is a lot of tension. Hear that? A lot like the minor second. And by the way, if you inverted this interval, it becomes a minor second. So major becomes minor, as above, so below. And then we complete the next sound, which is the octave. Somewhere over the rainbow. Led Zeppelin. Immigrant Song. So now, how many intervals do we have here? Okay, we got half step, whole step, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, tritone, perfect fifth, minor sixth, major 6, minor 7th, major 7th, octave, 12. Now here's something to think about. 12 is such a powerful structure in math. You know, how many months do we have in a year? 12. How many grades do we go through in school? 12. How many eggs in a dozen? 12. 12 is very profound, and I don't think it's a coincidence at all. It's also the way I think of, major and minor scales are 7 notes. There's 7 days in the week. Take blues music, which is kind of a working man's music, a little bit scaled down, 5 notes. What's a typical work week for a blue-collar guy? 5 days, right? Then you get off 2 days and you get to bitch about your boss on the weekends and play blues or something like this. I really associate nature with sound, okay? So what we did today is we established the perimeter. You can't overlook this stuff. No matter how advanced you are, intervals are going to be the building blocks of chords and where we're going to go next. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about attack. So the first 3 classes here were 1, establish the perimeter. We did that yesterday. You've got to know all the notes on your neck cold. I do. Somebody could hit me in the head with a shovel and I could rattle them off as fast as lightning. I don't have to think about that. And if you think long, you think wrong. Okay? So we don't think, we play. How do you do that? You've got to get in line with the laws of nature and music and how it works. Okay? And then today, we set up the channels of communication. Okay, remember, blind people excel in music. Stevie Wonder's a great musician. I can sit here all day and name musicians that, Ray Charles. And these guys are hyper aware of this because of being blind, and it really opens up that portal even more. And we're also going to, later on, we're going to talk about rhythm. A whole nother world gets opened up, I was real fortunate early on. I listened to a lot of Chick Corea and Al Di Meola and guys who had real rhythmic kind of phrasing. And that opens up a whole nother world too, Papa de Lucia. So go through, sing these intervals, make sure you get them down, and tomorrow we're going to attack. We're going to talk about the right hand if you're right-handed, the left hand if you pick with your left hand, and we're going to talk about technique, which is very important. It gets overlooked in a lot of circles, especially in certain styles of music. We're going to address why technique is so important, and we're going to talk about economy of motion and really attack. Okay? I'll see you tomorrow.